Hello everyone, welcome to BISP Solutions. So this is our fourth session on the intercompany. So we have seen till now all the relevant setups and the overview of how the intercompany balancing rules are applied, and the basic transaction we created yesterday in our GL by creating a journal. And then we have seen how intercompany balancing lines are created by the system based on the rules. In today's session, we will be focusing on the transaction that an intercompany accountant can do through the intercompany workbench, how he will be creating the transaction and how the approval works, and then how it is posted in the GL. So before moving further, we'll see our today's agenda. So let's move to the PPT. There is very less to discuss the things today. In the theory format, it will be all relating to the transactions and how the transaction flow works. So we will be hovering to the instance, and then we will see how in the instance we manage the approval flow, and then how in the instance using the intercompany workbench we can create the transaction. Then we'll see how the transaction is approved, and then the transaction is reflected in the intercompany outbound transactions and intercompany inbound transactions, and then we will move this to the GL. So we will be transacting between a US1 legal entity and US2 legal entity. These two legal entities are connected or are mapped in the same primary ledger. So US1 will be the provider organization and US2 will be the receiver organization. So now we will create the transaction, and how the things will go that we will see in our application. So this is our application. This is the home page. So before moving further, let me show you the transaction type that we have already seen in our previous sessions. So setup and maintenance. Then in the setups, financials. Under the financials, you need to select intercompany. In the intercompany, go to the all task, manage intercompany transaction types. In this manage intercompany transaction types, you can see various transaction types are created, and there are two options, the invoicing option and the manual approval option. So you can see here that in the IC additions, there is manual approval enabled and there is no invoicing is required. Okay, so we will be using this one for our today's discussion, and then in the going lecture on this second webinar, means in the tomorrow's webinar, we will be seeing how we can use IC sales where there is no manual approval. So how automatically the system will auto approve and then the invoicing will be generated. So when there is no invoicing option enabled, so there will be the transaction which will be directly transferred to the general ledger, and no invoicing will be created in the AR or the AP modules. But we'll see the concept of manual approval. So hence we are using this IC addition as the transaction type for today's session. Okay. In tomorrow's session, I'll pick up this IC sales where invoicing is required. So we will see how the transaction is transferred to AP and AR. But for today, we are not seeing that AP and AR. We see how the transaction is directly transferred to GL. Okay, so this is the overview. Now, if you see here, manual approval is enabled. So we need to check how these approval rules are set up. So I will go here in the bell icon notification. Here you can click on show all. This will navigate you to the BPM work list. Just a second. So this is my work list. Means when I click on the work list, this will take me to the work list area. So this is my BPM work list. From here, the drop down, we'll select administration. Then in the administration, I'll select task configuration. And here I'll search for Fun. So this is Fund transaction approval. We need to select this. Here the approval rules are defined. So you go to assignees. In the assignees, if I click on this small diamond shape icon, I'll go to rules. Then I can see all the rules created for various receiver organizations. So there are various organizations in this practice instance, like US1 IC org, US2 IC org, UK IC org, and various others. So you can see this is for intercompany transaction approval rules. Okay, so if you see here, the rule is defined. So what does it say is that if your receiver organization is US1 IC org, then this approval group will have the what we can say and a power to approve the transaction. So intercompany approval group US1 is set up for approving the transaction or rejecting the transaction when the receiver organization is US1 IC org. Same way, if you see for US2, the receiver organization is US2 and the group is intercompany approval group US2. In the same way for UK, I am showing you three organizations that we will be using. So all the three I am showing you. So receiver organization is UK IC org, and here the approval group is intercompany approval group UK. Here it is configured that the person in that group has the power to approve the or reject the transaction. He has the privilege to do that. There can be rules set up where a single person is having that privilege to approve or reject the transaction, but as it is configured here through approval group, we will be looking in the approval group who all can approve this transaction. So one by one we'll check all these approval groups. So let us move to approval group. Here you can search by typing intercompany. So you can see there are various intercompany approval group created here. So the one we are looking into is US1. So if your receiver organization is US1, so in that case the person present in this group will get the notification, like Brody Smith and Casey Brown. Now if both of them, any of them can approve the transaction or reject the transaction, because it will be going parallelly to both of the um, people present here. So in the same way, if I see for intercompany approval group US2, Kerry Lane is the person who can approve. Now if I want to add some other person to the group, I will just click on add member, and I'll write the name of the person. So here James Seller is the manager for Kerry Lane. So we will search for him. Advanced, I'll just type James. So the person Kerry Lane and the user James Seller both will get the notification if any transaction as a receiver organization is selected for US2. They both will get the notification, and either of them can approve it. You just have to add this. So this person is added in the list. You can click on save. So the approval group is saved. Now both of them has the capability to approve or reject any transaction. Now let us create a transaction. So we have seen how we can add the person in the group and do the approval. So this we can close BPM work list. I'll create a basic transaction. So in the intercompany accounting, the transaction I need to select. From here, from the task list, I'll select create transaction. So the steps involved while creating the transaction are: you enter the intercompany badges for provider intercompany organization which is assigned to you. The intercompany distribution amounts manually we enter, or we can generate distributions automatically. And then the intercompany accounting lines are generated after the receiver approves the transaction. So I will this is the batch number we should remember, 2438, and provider is US1 IC, or transaction type is IC additions, because in this case we'll see a manual approval. Batch date today's date, accounting date today's date. I'll just write test here, test demo. Then you can see the legal entity is coming here, US1 legal entity. You can have a control amount for this general entry if you have various transactions. Then click on add to add the transaction. Receiver, we are taking US2 IC, or you will see the legal entity is reflected based on our receiver. This is coming from your intercompany organization setup that we have done. Debit the amount, say 1500. Okay. Now the provider details we need to provide. Now here I need to provide the account. So I can have the account from where I am allocating the expenditure to the receiver account. So I'll just take any expense account like miscellaneous expense account from here. This is miscellaneous expenses account. I'll take miscellaneous. Okay. Now in the receiver, I'll mention the receiver's account combination. The person approving from the receiver organization has the authority or power to change the account which is provided by the provider uh, organization. Means if I am providing here say recruiting expenses and it is not relating to this head, the expense is related to some other head as per the receiver organization, then they have the authority or the privilege to change the account. So I have taken this. Now I'll okay, I need to change this company as the company is 102. The balancing segment value is 102. Okay, debit 1500. Okay, so I'll now save this. So our batch is saved. So you can see this status is new for now. The batch status is new for now. Once we have submitted, the batch status will change to submit. So the batch has been submitted. Now if you go to manage intercompany outbound transaction, as this is a provider organization, and you search here the batch number, you will see the batch status as submitted. And if you click on the batch, you can see the status as received. Means this is received by US2 IC organization, which is our receiver organization. And you can see the intercompany balancing line is already created here in the distribution. Okay, I'll just click on cancel here. Okay, now we'll have to approve this. So the person Kerry Lane or James Seller has the power to approve this. Before that, let's go to the bell icon, show all. Go to the work list. In the initiated task, you can see the inbound transaction which has been sent by the provider organization is sent for approval. Now this is the transaction that we have sent for the approval to receiver organization. You can see the receiver line and the provider line provided here. In the actions, if you see view approval, you can see it has been assigned to James Seller and Kerry Lane both at the same time, as these both are added in the approval group. Okay, so we need to either log in through Kerry Lane or James Seller to approve this transaction. So I will quickly change the password of James Seller and we'll do that. As this is a practice instance, we are changing and using some other person's user credential, but it should never be practiced in the real environment. So I'll go to the security console I will search for user James Seller, which we have added in our um, approval group. Reset password. Manually change the password. Reset password. Now I log in through his user account. So once we log in through James Seller account, we can see in the bell icon the action required: inbound batch approval 2438 transaction 1 from US1 organization 1500 GBP. I can click from here and I can approve it directly from here. Okay, approve or reject whatever action I need to take. I can take it from the BPM worklist itself. There are options to approve or reject. In the actions, if you want to request some other information, you can reassign it to the provider KC Brown, again provider organization person who has sent this to you. And if you want to delegate it to some other, you can delegate it. If I click on view approval, you can see from whom it has been coming to you, KC Brown, and to whom it has been assigned. So this is about the work list, but I'll not do it from here. I'll go to the intercompany option. Here, intercompany option, transactions. In the transactions, there is an option of manage approval. In the task list, you can see there is an option of manage approval. In this manage approval, we can see the two tabs are there: requiring my approval and pending approvals from others. Now if I go to KC Brown user and I go to his transaction list, his transaction in the intercompany, and in the task list, if I go to manage approval in KC Brown's screen or login, then we can see there are also the two tabs present. Requiring my approval and pending approval from others. If I click on pending approvals from other, I will find the transaction which KC Brown user has passed to receiver intercompany organization US2. And if I go to James seller, this is coming under requiring my approval. Now if you click on this transaction amount, the details shall open. Now if I want to see, the receiver details are there and the provider details, the receiver details are present here. Okay, the transaction status is received over here. I'll click on done. This instance is slow. I'll go to home page and then return here again. So this was through manage approvals. We were coming here, so he can approve or reject. You can see pending approval from others. There is no transaction here. So this is the option of approve and reject. Before approving this, let me go to the inbound transaction once. Manage intercompany inbound transaction, and let me search for this batch 2438. Okay, let me also log in through Carey Lane to show you the difference. So this is the transaction for Casey Brown. Let me log out from Casey Brown. Now I am logging through Carey Lane also, who is also a co-approver for your US2 receiver organization. So Carey Lane has also received the same notification. If I'll click on the bell icon, you can see inbound batch approval 2438. But we will see in the intercompany workbench in this transaction. So go to transactions. So in the task list, manage approvals. So there are this is the one 1500. I'll click on that. So you can see the difference now. Let me show you. If I go to manage approvals, here is as this person is the line manager. James Seller is the line manager for Carey Lane. He has the power to approve the transaction, but if I click on this, he has no option to edit this account. There is no option to edit this account. Okay, so moving out, and So this person cannot change the account combination. But if you go to the carry lane, as he's the intercompany accountant as well, he has the authority, or he has the privilege to change the account. If this account is not correct as per carry lane, and this account this expense is not relating to recruiting expense, say, so he can just change this account. Okay. Okay. So say, according to him, it's an interest expenses, and he's booking this as interest expenses and not as the recruiting expenses. So he has the uh, he can do that. But the person, um James, does not has that privilege, because he is just the line manager, hence he has the um, option to come to this page. Okay. But both of them has the power to approve or reject the transaction. Okay. So we will approve this through carry lane, and I'll click on approve. So you change receiver distribution, you must either save. Okay. So I'll first save. Okay, so my changes have been saved. Now that will be reflected in both of the transactions, whether it is being seen by James or by carry lane. This was to show that the receiver has the power to approve the transaction and even change the account, which he is not confident about when the provider has provided that account. So he can change that account as well. Okay, if now the person now this person James seller will open it, the account has been changed. So we will use James seller account only to approve the transaction. This has been selected, just click on approve. Okay, just click on done. Now if I see this I refresh this page, so this has been removed from requiring my approval, as it has already been approved. This is carry lane's account. I'll go to manage inbound transaction, intercompany inbound transaction, and I'll enter the batch number here, 2438. So batch number is this, and the transaction status is approved. Okay, if I want to see the details, I can click on the transaction number, and you can see the account that has been changed is debited, the interest expense, and the company balancing line is created based on the rules. So the account being picked is IC payables account, and the intercompany is taking the balancing segment value as 101, which is our US1 IC organization account. Okay, so this is how we view the transaction in the inbound option, inbound transaction task. And if I now log in through Casey Brown, So KC Brown login has been done. Okay, now if I go to intercompany transaction, in the task list, if I go to manage intercompany outbound transaction, as US1 was the provider organization, so this will be recorded in outbound transaction for US1. So this is the batch number. If I click on the batch number, you can see the status is now changed to approved, and these are the accounts of the provider organization. And if I go to the receiver, the account has been changed. So interest expense is being reflected, which is changed by Carrie Lane, who is US2, who has the power to change this in the US2 IC org. So this is how we can check the transaction in the outbound transaction. Okay, I need to go out from this page. I'll click on done. Okay, now one more thing which we can do is, as this was not requiring any invoicing option was not there, so this transaction can directly be transferred to GL. So based on our PPT, we have seen the approval flow, we have seen how to create the transaction, we have seen the transaction in the outbound transaction and inbound transaction as well. We have seen the whole functionality of manage approvals. Now we will be transferring this transaction to GL. So I'll click on transfer to GL. So you can provide the details, however nothing is mandatory to be provided here, but you can provide the accounting date. Okay, and other things we'll leave, and I'll click on submit. The process is submitted. I'll note this. Now I will go to tools, from the navigator, schedule processes. You can see the process is running here. Transfer intercompany transaction to GL, which is completed, and the import journal process is running. So let's wait for a few seconds. If you want to see the output, you can click on this, and then from more you can download this log file in text format. Open this. You can see one transaction is transferred to US primary ledger. Batch name is 2438. Okay, now if I go to my GL, general accounting dashboard, and I'll go to journals. Manage journals. So accounting period is this. Source I can take as global intercompany. Let me type it. So the one which we have created today is the last one. We can make it out from the amount. This is 1500. So this is unposted. I'll click on this. Global Intercompany 12438 is our batch number. We could have identified from this also. So this is our batch number. The journal is created. You can see the details are here. If you click on this, it will show you the transaction, which is the intercompany transaction. So the drill down functionality is there, and you can also see who has approved this. So let me show you once again. You can see the final approver is James Seller, and here the transaction status is now changed to transfer to provider general ledger. Okay, now if you click on post, process is submitted and this will be posted. Let me re-navigate to this page. Manage journals. These transactions can be created without having invoices created in AP and AR. Now there can be a requirement for having the AR invoices and payables invoices. So in that case we will be requiring to transfer the transaction to receivables and payables and not directly to the GL. But when we transfer it directly to the GL, there are no such invoices created. So you can see the general import is the general is posted. You can see the batch status is posted, and now your transaction is completed. So if I click on the amount again, okay, so it is bringing us here. The currency GBP system is taking because in the system option we have mentioned that the transaction, intercompany transaction, should be in GBP currency. So we have specified there, hence it is taking as GBP, and then it is applying the conversion rate and converting the transaction in the USD. Now if I go to intercompany transactions once again, task list, manage intercompany outbound transaction, and search for this batch 2438. Click on the batch number. You can see the details are provided here also. This is saying transfer to provider general ledger. Okay, so this is how the whole flow works, where we create the transaction, then it is approved. If the auto approval is not in place, means if manual approval is enabled by us in the transaction type, so based on the transaction type the approval will work. So if it is manually approved, then it will be going to your intercompany organization's approver whom you have assigned in your BPM work list, and then that person will has the power to change the account number, the code combination that you have provided, the provider organization has provided, and then he can approve or reject the transaction. If he wants to have any other information, then he can ask for that information too, and then once the transaction is approved, you can transfer the transaction to GL if there is no requirement for generating the invoice. And if you want to generate the invoice in the transaction types as only, you have to enable that checkbox for invoicing. Then the transaction shall be created using the transfer to receiver and receivable and transfer to payable option. This we will be covering in our next session. So we have seen how manage intercompany outbound transaction, manage intercompany inbound transaction, creating transaction, transfer to journal ledger, and manage approvals. The remaining tasks we will be covering in our tomorrow's session. So as all these are covered, hope you have understood the thing and how the transactions are created. And thank you for joining and watching the session. Thanks.